XRP's story begins over a decade ago as the audacious idea that global payments should move as quickly and cheaply as an email. Born inside Ripple Labs, the token was never pitched as digital gold or a decentralized computer. It was engineered as neutral bridge liquidity for banks, fintechs, and on-the-ground remittance firms that spend billions each year on slow, fee-ridden correspondent networks. That singular focus propelled XRP to the top tier of market caps, then landed it in the crosshairs of regulators when a U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission alleged the token was an unregistered security. For 3 years, headlines painted XRP as radioactive. Yet even with that legal fog, the ledger kept processing transactions in 3 to 5 seconds at a fraction of a cent, and corridor after corridor quietly went live outside the United States. Today, XRP sits just outside crypto's top 5 by market capitalization, routinely clearing more on-chain volume than many higher-priced coins. Exchange data shows turnover that outpaces most proof-of-work assets, and institutional desks report swelling open interest, suggesting stealth accumulation rather than retail hype. The partial legal victory Ripple scored, where the court ruled secondary market sales are not securities, removed a major overhang. But the case also forced the industry to scrutinize token economics. The result, XRP is now seen less as a speculative moonshot and more as mission-critical plumbing in a banking stack that is rapidly modernizing. Technologically, the ledger still enjoys a speed and cost advantage. Consensus finality in seconds, deterministic settlement with no orphan blocks, and energy usage comparable to sending an email make the network a regulatory darling in a world that just watched Europe impose carbon reporting on blockchains. Scalability is moving beyond theory. Sidechain experiments and the built-in clawback amendment allow asset issuers to tokenize everything from real-time FX swaps to tokenized treasuries without smart contract bloat. If you need millions of tiny payments for IoT devices or instantaneous treasury movements between clearing houses, XRP Ledger throughput is ready now. No sharding roadmap, no layer 2 gymnastics. All eyes now turn to regulation. Should the SEC drop its remaining charges or craft a compliant path forward, U.S. banks could finally switch from test nets to production corridors. Congress is already debating the Anti-CBDC Act and the Genius Act for stablecoin oversight. If Washington rejects a sovereign digital dollar, privately issued dollars like Ripple Dollar stand to fill the vacuum. Ripple's New York DFS approval gives it a head start, and every mint and burn cycle of Ripple Dollar passes through XRPL, adding transactional gravity to the native token. Globally, the narrative is shifting even faster. The Bank for International Settlements pilots multi-CBDC bridges. The IMF frames instant settlement as systemically important, and Swift's 50-year-old Rails creak under ISO 20022 migration deadlines. In this environment, XRP's compliance-first positioning resonates. A chain that can talk to CBDCs, stablecoins, and legacy fiat simultaneously, and do it with audited transparency. If that interoperability thesis holds, the ledger could become the meeting point where regulated digital money swaps at internet speed. Still, challenges loom. Competing Layer 1s market tens of thousands of transactions per second. DeFi ecosystems dwarf XRP TVL, and the token's floating supply, half in escrow, raises questions about eventual dilution. Smart contract functionality, while improving, trails EVM chains and developer mindshare. And the market's collective memory will not instantly forget headline risk. In other words, dominance is not preordained. It must be earned corridor by corridor, partnership by partnership. What tips the scale is adoption. Santander, Tranglo, and SBI Remit have already pushed billions through ODL. Hitterat's decision to accept Ripple Dollar as round-the-clock collateral shows TradFi giants are willing to plug in when cost-benefit math is undeniable. If a handful more institutions follow, daily burns accelerate, circulation tightens, and liquidity depth grows organically. That feedback loop can lift price floor without meme coin theatrics, utility begetting value rather than the other way around. Looking toward 2025, imagine a scenario where U.S. tax reform exempts long-term crypto gains for domestically registered projects. The SEC publishes bright line token rules, and Fedwire's ISO upgrade is complete. Banks could settle offshore FX after hours through XRPL. Fintechs could issue payroll-backed stablecoins, and DeFi protocols might leverage native hooks to wrap yield-bearing assets. In that environment, XRP need not flip Ethereum to matter. It simply has to own the niche it was built for: fast, cheap, compliant liquidity. If it does, price appreciation follows naturally because every additional basis point saved on trillions inflows compounds into demand for the underlying bridge asset. Could XRP fade into obscurity? Only if regulatory clarity stalls. Emerging competitors match its speed at lower cost, and financial institutions decide they prefer closed-loop CBDCs to an open bridge network. That trifecta is possible, but current trends point the other way. Regulators want neutrality, banks want vendor optionality, and the public wants a say in how digital money moves. XRP offers each group a piece of that puzzle today, not 5 years from now, not after another hard fork. So the question is less whether XRP will dominate every corner of crypto, and more whether it can remain indispensable to the part of finance it already serves. If it keeps reducing friction faster than rivals can lower theirs, the token becomes the oil of a machine no one can afford to turn off. That is not a moonshot. It is infrastructure play. An infrastructure, once entrenched, usually sticks around far longer than the narratives that doubted it. Stay tuned, because the coming quarters will reveal whether regulators, banks, and developers align behind speed, cost, and compliance, or diverge into fragmented silos. If alignment wins, XRP may not just survive the next cycle. It could quietly become the standard everyone uses without thinking, just like the internet protocols we rely on every day without ever reading their white papers.